The last transmission left Earth on a quiet night. In the control room at Luna Station, consoles glowed with soft blue light. Operators watched the screens with gentle smiles. They knew this message would travel farther than any before. It carried humanity's last hope, a simple greeting, and a call for friendship. No one guessed it would change everything. Commander Elena Park stood before the central console. She pressed the final key, and a soft hum filled the room. The message leapt from Earth's orbit into the darkness of space, spoke in clear, simple words. "We are here. We come in peace. We wish to know you." For a moment, every observer held their breath. Then the feed cut out. The message sailed onward, deeper into the void. Alina closed her eyes. She remembered the long years of preparation. She thought of her children who would never hear a reply. She thought of all humanity, waiting to learn whether they were alone. The station fell silent. Outside, the stars burned bright in the black sky. Decades passed. Earth grew busy. Wars, politics, and daily life took over. The message became legend, a story for school children. Most people forgot its existence. Only a few historians and dreamers still spoke of that night, far from Earth and the belt between. Mars and Jupiter, a small cargo ship named Endeavour drifted. Captain Lucian Rowe ran a modest transport service. He hauled our fuel cells and sometimes passengers between mining colonies. His crew was small, just 3 people. They shared cramped quarters and cheap hot food. They knew every inch of the ship, from the worn control deck to the rusted hull. The work was dull. They talked about home and the stars, but nothing else. Until one day, everything changed. On the 72nd anniversary of Earth's message, the Endeavour drifted near an uncharted region. The onboard radio crackled with static as usual. Lucian scanned the frequencies to find empty channels. When a voice broke through, soft, familiar, and impossible. It spoke in a man's voice, clear English. "We heard you. Run." Lucian froze. He looked at his navigator, Maya. Her eyes were wide behind her glasses. The engineer, Jiro, crouched beside the radio console, adjusting knobs as if to clear a stuck lobster. But the voice repeated, "Run, run." It did not sound like interference. It sounded like a friend in danger. Lucian tapped the mic. "This is Endeavour." "Who are you?" Silence. Then the same voice whispered, "They are coming." Maya's hand flew to her mouth. Jiro's face turned pale. Lucian reached for the intercom. "All stations, report. Now." His voice trembled. The ship's alarms did not go off. Nothing overtly dangerous had happened. Yet, Lucian ordered Jiro to record the signal. He saved every pulse, every echo. Maya plotted the origin. It came from deep within a starless zone called the Empty Fold. No chart showed anything there. The name itself gave her shivers. The Fold, silence and darkness beyond human reach. Lucian contacted the nearest Station Artemis outpost on Io. He expected a polite reply. Instead, only static answered. No one at Artemis had recorded unusual activity. No one had heard the message. Artemis refused to investigate. Lucian felt alone. He made a choice. "We go in," he said, voice low. "We find who sent that." Maya protested, "Captain, we have no equipment, no support. We could die." Lucian rubbed his temples. He was tired. He missed civilization. But he remembered Earth's message. Someone had answered. Someone was in danger. Could not leave them. Could not let the galaxy forget again. "Plot a course," he ordered. "Set engines to low thrust." We slip in quietly. Jiro looked uneasy. "Quietly? You mean no jammers? No beacons? Just us, sailing blind?" Lucian nodded. "Exactly."
Ow.
They left the main shipping lanes. The mines on Ganymede and Callisto slipped behind them. Beyond the orbit of Uranus, the ship entered a region where star charts marked error, or void. Lights dimmed on the horizons of gas giants. Communication was thin. Even the sensors seemed to hesitate. For 3 days, the Endeavour glided through darkness. The crew ate cold rations and stared at the black windows. Maya's hair tangled around her shoulders. Giro tinkered with the radio non-stop. Lucien tried to rest, but found sleep impossible. Every whine of the hull made him bolt upright. He imagined shadows on the bulkheads, claws reaching in through the portholes. On the fourth day, at the exact coordinates of the signal, they found nothing, only the endless black. Maya swept the scanners for any anomaly: energy spikes, mass, distortions, gravimetric waves. Nothing. Yet the radio crackled again, the same voice, calm but urgent. "Hurry." Giro froze. "That's not human. Humans don't hide in the dark. They don't." His voice trailed off, shook his head. "It's wrong." Lucien clutched the arms of his chair. "We're here, aren't we?" "We answer them." Maya pointed at the radar screen. A faint blip appeared. "'Kay, almost invisible. It pulsed once every 7 seconds. Lucien leaned forward. "Could be a natural phenomenon." Maya shook her head. "No natural thing mimics a voice. That blip. It's calling us." They followed the blip, led them deeper into a region where sensors flickered and died. Lights on the console turned red. Emergency power hummed. The ship shuddered. Giro cursed and toggled switches. The power returned. Systems blinked back online. On the main viewport, a shape appeared, a vessel, long and thin, half buried in darkness. It looked abandoned. No lights, no thrusters, just a hulking silhouette. Its design was like nothing in human or alien fleets. It had curves and angles that seemed to defy physics. It made Lucien's stomach turn. "Scan it," he ordered. Maya sent pulses at the hull. The ship replied with a hollow echo. No data came back. No heat signatures. No life signs. It was cold, lifeless, and huge. Giro muttered, "You'd think something this big would leave a trail." Lucien shut off the main engines. They drifted closer. He saw marks on the hull lines etched into metal. They looked like writing. Scars. They moved. At first, his mind played tricks. But the lines shifted, sliding like liquid metal. They rearranged themselves. Giro drew in a breath. "They're writing something on the hull." Maya zoomed in. The letters formed words in English. "We took them." Lucien drew his sidearm. "Get ready." His heart pounded. Suddenly, the vessel shuddered. It lit up. Portholes glowed with pale white light. The lights flickered like dead stars. From the hull, dozens of slender shapes emerged. They drifted in space, like ghosts. They had no faces, no eyes. Their bodies looked human: white skin, long limbs, no hair. But the skin was too smooth, too perfect. They moved toward the Endeavor. Giro slammed his fist. "We are leaving now." Lucien hesitated. He remembered the warning. Run. Was it for him or for those people? Maya gripped her console. "We can't. The docking clamps locked onto us." She pointed. "They boarded us." Before anyone could react, the tiny ghosts slipped through the outer hall's secret doors. They invaded the corridors. The lights blinked off. Emergency red lights flashed. The ship's corridors filled with low, static whispers, voices echoing human names long forgotten. Alina, Lucien, Maya, Giro. Lucien fired his sidearm down the corridor. The bullet passed through a figure, which melted into more. Static. The figure's voice rose, crying a human name. Then it vanished. They were not alive. Giro ran back to the radio. "I'm sending a distress call." Maya grabbed him. "Don't. They'll hear us. They can mimic any voice." Lucien struggled to stay calm. "We need to get to the bridge," he shouted. "Shut down propulsion. Spin them off." They raced through the dark halls. Its figures followed, slipping silently. Each ghost repeated human voices, voices of loved ones, of family, of friends lost. To time, the whispers droned, making their heads ache. On the bridge, Lucien slammed shut the blast doors. He activated lockdown. The ghosts pounded on the door-flattened hands that left no marks. The door shuddered, but held. Maya worked the console. We have one chance. Impulse engines. Full reverse. They'll slide off in space. Do it, Lucian said. Jiro hesitated. But where will we go? We don't know how to get home from here. Lucian inhaled. Remembered his wife's face at home, his daughter's laughter. He could not let these things follow them back. He flicked switches. The engines roared. The Endeavor lurched backward. Outside, the ghosts flew past the viewport, melting away into the void. They reached for the ship, but the reverse thrust was too strong. They vanished into darkness. On the bridge, silence fell. Only the hum of engines remained. Lucian collapsed into his chair, breathing hard. Maya wiped sweat from her brow. Jiro stood trembling. Then the radio crackled. A new voice came through. Calm, gentle, and deep, a man's voice in perfect English. Thank you. You saved them. Lucian pounded the console. Who are you? The voice paused. We are who you should have never disturbed. You rescued us from ourselves. Maya looked at Lucian. He said us. Who? The voice concluded. We are still here. We never left. The feed cut out. The ship shuddered. Lights flickered. The voice echoed one last time. We heard you. Run. Then all went silent. The Endeavor drifted alone in the empty fold. Lucian stared at the dark viewport. Somewhere out there, something had answered humanity's call, a thing that wore human skins and spoke in human voices, and now it was watching in that moment. He knew the galaxy would never be the same. Whoever or whatever they were, they had plans far beyond friendship. They had awoken because Earth sent a message. And now they were here, Lucian said softly. We run. Maya nodded, tears in her eyes. Jiro swallowed hard. None of them spoke again. They stared into the black, waiting for what would come next. The cargo ship Endeavor floated in dead silence. The lights were dim. The crew sat in the command room, still shaken. Captain Lucian Rowe stared at the black void outside the glass. Maya's fingers trembled on the console. Jiro checked the systems. Again and again, even though they were all stable now. No one spoke. They were afraid that if they did, the voices would come back. They had just escaped something. Something that looked like people. Something that copied voices, faces, and memories. And now, the ship was drifting near the edge of a starless region called the Empty Fold. No stars, no light, no signal. Just darkness. Lucian pressed the intercom button. Try Artemis Outpost again, he said. JIRO switched on the radio. He tuned to the frequency and waited. Static. Then more static. No reply. Still nothing, he said. Either they're not answering or something's blocking us. Lucian frowned. Check the antenna. I did. 10 times. Everything is working. We should be getting them. Jiro leaned back in his chair. It's like something is swallowing the signal. Maya looked up from her station. Captain, the radar picked up something else. It's not a ship, not a rock. It's a zone. A dead zone. Lucian moved over to her console. A large area of space was blacked out on the screen. The sensors weren't failing. It was like the region itself didn't want to be scanned. No readings, no returns, not even background radiation. Lucian asked, coordinates. Same direction the voice came from, Maya whispered. Lucian closed his eyes. He remembered the voice. Soft, human, warning them. Aran, it had said. They are coming, but he also remembered something else. The final words, you saved them. Saved who? Lucian muttered. Those things? Those copies? One answered. For hours, the crew stayed on alert. Jiro ran system checks every 30 minutes. Maya scanned the black zone again and again. Lucian sat in his chair, staring at the recording from earlier, the message that had been spoken in his own language by a voice that was not alive. Then a light blinked on Maya's screen. Something's moving. She said. JIRO stood up. Where? Near that black zone. It's small. Could be a ship. Lucian leaned forward. Details. No ID, no signal. But it's familiar. Shape looks human. The crew exchanged glances. Lucien made a decision. We check it out. If it's a lost ship, we help. If it's one of those things, we leave, Maya finished. The ship moved slowly toward the unknown object. As they got closer, its shape became clear. It was a human transport ship, small, about the size of a rescue pod. It floated silently. No power, no lights. Maya gasped. "Captain, that's the Archound." Lucien looked confused. "The Archound? That's impossible. That ship went missing 20 years ago." Jiro said, checking a list. "It vanished near Saturn. No signal, no trace." Lucien stared at the screen. The ship didn't look damaged. It was intact. But something about it felt wrong. Its hull looked too clean, too smooth, like it had never flown before. Lucien sighed. "We're going in." Jiro raised his eyebrows. "Seriously? After what we just saw?" "There might be survivors," Lucien said, "and we need answers." They suited up. Maya stayed behind on the bridge while Lucien and Jiro boarded the shuttle. They connected it to the Archound's airlock. The outer doors opened with a hiss. Inside, it was pitch black. Lucien turned on his helmet light. The corridor stretched. Out before him, untouched by time. No dust, no decay, but also no signs of life. The walls were clean. "It's clean." "This doesn't feel right," Jiro whispered. They moved forward. Lucien pushed open the first door, a dining room. Plates sat. On the table, perfectly placed. The food had long since decayed, but the chairs were still set. The table looked as if the crew had just stepped away. "Still no bodies?" Jiro said. "Where did they go?" Lucien checked the ship's log. It was blank. He tried the security. Feed. It played a short, silent clip. The camera showed the dining room. People were sitting there, eating, talking. Then suddenly, every head turned at once toward the camera. Every person. The exact same moment. Then the screen went black. Lucien turned to Jiro. "Did you see?" "Yes," Jiro said, Pele. They moved deeper into the ship. One room had names scratched into the walls. Hundreds of names. Some were repeated. Some were misspelled. Lucien touched the wall. The scratches were fresh. Jiro opened another door. It was a storage room. In the middle of the floor, someone had drawn a circle with lines crossing it like a strange symbol. Round it, small pieces of clothing were neatly folded. Shoes, belts, glasses. Lucien said, "This wasn't an accident. They left these things behind on purpose." Jiro stepped into the circle. He looked up. "Captain, something's here." "What do you mean?" "I don't know." Jiro's eyes widened. "It's like it's watching me." Lucien pulled him back. "We're leaving now." They turned and ran back through the corridors. The walls echoed with their footsteps. Then a sound stopped them, a voice. A woman's. "Voice, Lucien." He froze. "That's my wife's voice," he whispered. "Lucien," the voice repeated. "Come back." Jiro's voice shook. "Captain, that's not real. You told me. She died years ago." Lucien nodded slowly. "Did?" The voice spoke again. "Closer now. Don't leave me." They ran, they reached the shuttle and sealed the doors. As they disconnected from the Archound, Lucien looked back through the small window. A figure stood in the hallway. A woman, smiling, but her eyes were completely black. Back on the Endeavor, Maya greeted them with wide eyes. "What happened?" Lucien didn't answer. He sat down, breathing hard. "Jiro told her everything," Maya said. "Captain, something else happened while you were gone." Lucien turned to her. "I recorded something. A new signal. It came from the Archound, but not while you were inside. It started right after you left." She played the recording. Well, it was a low whisper, deep and slow. "They remember us. Want to be us? They have learned our names." Lucien shook his head. "This isn't just mimicry. It's memory. They're not pretending. They're becoming." Maya looked at her console. "And Captain, that black zone, it's growing." "What?" "Sensors now show the edge of the zone moving, spreading out, slowly." Lucien stood up. "We need to warn someone. Anyone." Maya frowned. "Even if we could send a message, who would believe us? Someone has to, Lucien said, but deep down he wasn't sure. They didn't sleep that night. The ship was quiet, but not peaceful. Every now and then, the radio clicked. Soft voices whispered names. Some were theirs, some were names they didn't know. But every time they tried to trace the signal, it vanished. Lucien sat in his chair and stared at the blackness outside. The galaxy had forgotten Earth's message. But someone out there had remembered, and now they were answering. Not with warships, not with threats, with copies, with ghosts, with memories. He whispered to himself, "What have we called down from the dark?" There was no answer, only silence. And that silence felt hungry. The Galactic Council met inside a space station the size of a small moon, orbiting a bright blue star. This station had hosted peace talks, trade deals, and even wartime trials over hundreds of years. Leaders from 100 different species gathered inside the Grand Dome. Today, the air was tense. Ambassador Tharkesh of the Zelari spoke first. His species was made of crystals and lived for centuries. His voice was smooth and cold. "The humans have broken the peace," he said. "A signal was sent. Now something ancient is moving through the galaxy. Earth is silent." Beside him, a tall insect-like being from the Tehran hive clicked her mandibles. "Our colony on Hyris 3 is gone. 10,000 souls gone without a trace. Before we lost contact, they sent one message." A voice. In English? The room grew quiet. From the other side of the table, an older human ambassador named Clara Winters stood. Her hands trembled slightly. "We don't know what's happening. That signal was sent over 70 years ago. It was peaceful, just a greeting. We never expected this." A small alien with bright eyes and glowing skin rose. "You sent a call into the dark. Now the dark is here." The council argued for hours. Some called for Earth to be quarantined. Others wanted to strike, first destroy Earth to protect the rest of the galaxy. Clara begged them to wait. She didn't know what was happening. But she knew Earth hadn't done this on purpose. Back on the Endeavor, Lucien, Maya, and Jiro watched the council meeting through a delayed broadcast. The signal was weak, but the message was clear. Humanity was being blamed. Lucien slammed his fist on the console. Of course they're scared. But destroying Earth won't help. That thing, it's not human. It just wears our face. Jiro pointed at a blinking light. "Another signal's coming in?" Maya adjusted the receiver. The message was broken, filled with static, but they could hear screaming. And then a calm voice. "We found your signal. We came to meet you." The ship it came from was called Glory Reach, a research vessel from the Varnan Empire. It had vanished 2 days earlier near a dark region known as the Veil Sector. Lucien ordered the computer to trace the signal's source. "If we can get there fast, maybe we can help someone." Shook his head. "Every time we chase these signals, something bad happens." Lucien looked at him. "And if we don't, this will spread. We have to understand it." They plotted a course to the Veil Sector. As they flew, they listened to other transmissions. Ships from several alien empires were vanishing, not destroyed, not exploded, just gone. The last messages were always the same English voices, often familiar ones. People heard the voices of friends, family, even lovers. Some jumped out of airlocks. Others shot their crew members thinking they were being tricked, and in every case the same phrase was spoken. "We are you, remember. Let us in." Meanwhile, the Glory Reach floated near a pale blue dwarf star. The Endeavor approached it. Slowly, no life signs, no power. But the ship was whole. "Same as the Arkhound," Maya whispered. Lucien frowned. "Let's send in a drone first." They launched a small spherical drone, floated through the airlock of the Glory Reach. Inside, the ship looked normal until it reached the bridge. The drone's camera showed the crew standing perfectly still. 5 alien researchers, their bodies frozen in place, eyes wide open, not moving, not blinking. Then one of them smiled. The drone's feed turned black. Lucien stood. "We're not going in." "Not this time." Jiro exhaled in relief. "Good. I was ready to eject myself." Then the voice returned through their own radio. You should not have come. Lucien grabbed the mic. Who are you? There was a long silence. Then you know us. You made us. Maya's face turned pale. Captain, I think it's right. Jiro nodded slowly. What if it was born from our message? Lucien paced. That doesn't make sense. A signal can't create life. But what if, Maya said, it didn't create life? It woke something that was already waiting. Lucien stared out the window at the silent ship. The longer he looked, the more he felt like he was being watched. What if the signal gave it a face to wear? A language to use? Back at the Galactic Council, panic was spreading. One of the Council's own patrol fleets had been attacked without weapons. The fleet commander sent a last video. In it, the crew had started repeating each other's words. Then their voices overlapped. Then their bodies began to mirror one another, like reflections. And then, silence. The Council voted. Earth would be sealed off. No ships in. No ships out. Clara Winters stood in the middle of the chamber, her voice steady. You think locking us away will save you? But it won't. This thing doesn't need ships, doesn't need weapons. It travels through memory, through language. Through voice, the insect alien hissed. Then how do we stop it? Clara looked tired. I don't think we can. On the Endeavor, Maya discovered something strange. Captain, she said, look at this. She showed a recording of the first message they received, the warning from the mimic voice. She slowed it down, frame by frame. Behind the voice, in the background, was another voice, whispering something. Lucien leaned in. Enhance it. The computer played it again. This time they heard it clearly. Don't let them speak. I don't. Answer? Don't record us. Jiro blinked. That voice was real. That was human. Someone was trying to help us. Lucien stood. Someone's trapped. Inside those things, Maya nodded. Or worse, part of them. None of the crew slept. Every light on the ship was turned on. Every system was checked twice. Still, the feeling of being watched never left. At 0300 hours, the ship's lights dimmed. The temperature dropped. Radio turned on by itself. Lucien rushed to the bridge. The screen showed his own face. Only, it wasn't him. The smile was wrong. The eyes too bright, the mimic said. You are Lucien Rowe, born in Paris, Captain. Of the Endeavor, your first love was Amara Chin. She died when the station burned. Lucien's breath caught in his throat. The mimic tilted its head. You remember? So do we. That's how we live. Then the screen went black. Lucien turned. Away, his heart beat like a drum in his chest. Maya entered the room a few seconds later. You saw it too, she said. He nodded. We need to warn Earth, she whispered. Lucien agreed. But how? Earth was being sealed off. No messages in, no messages out, unless Jiro appeared. There's a Bakshonalon old frequency that was used during the first colony wars, buried deep in CUM systems. If we can reach an Earth's military node, they might hear us. Lucien gave the order. Do it, Jiro worked fast. The signal would be weak. It might take hours. It might not work. But they had to try. The transmission began. This is the Endeavor. To any Earth defense units. There is a threat spreading across the galaxy. It uses voices. It mimics people. It wears their memories like masks. Do not trust what you see. Do not answer strange signals. Repeat. Do not respond to voices that sound human. They sent the message. Then they waited. Hours passed. No reply. Then finally, the radio crackled. Voice came through. Calm. Military. This is Earth Defense Node Signal 9. We hear you, Endeavor. Message received. Lucien sighed in relief. Until the voice added, We are coming. Then a second voice came through, layered under the first. No, that's not us. The crew froze. Two voices. One real, one mimic. Lucien whispered. Which? One answered us first. No one knew. And far behind them, deep in the Veil sector, the Glory Reach turned. No power, no thrusters, but it moved anyway. Something inside it was steering now. Something that remembered how humans speak. Something that remembered names. Something that was learning. It's faster every hour. And the signal kept spreading. From one ship to another. From one station to the next. From one voice to all, the galaxy was starting to understand. The humans had sent a message of peace. But what answered? Didn't want peace. It wanted to become. The vote was final. The Galactic Council passed Emergency Order 17. Earth was to be sealed. No ships in, no ships out. No data shared. All human settlements and other systems were ordered to report or be destroyed. The decision was quick and cold. Fear had taken hold of the galaxy on the giant council moon. Ambassador Clara Winters stood alone as the other species turned their backs. The insect-like Tehran guards walked her out without a word. She wasn't arrested.
Ow.
But it was worse than that. She had become invisible. Back on Earth, no one knew the truth. Governments still argued. News networks called the growing threat a communications error or a rogue AI signal. But under the surface, the leaders were panicking. Dozens of secret signals from outer colonies had stopped. Ships returning from deep space either came back empty or not at all, and now something else had begun. In the old Antarctic research facility known as Obsidian Station, strange signals were being detected. At first, the engineers thought it was just interference from Earth's magnetic field. But then, one of the operators played the audio out loud. It was a voice, calm, cold. Very familiar. It said, "You spoke first. Now we speak back." You opened the door. We walked through. The engineer who heard it tried to laugh. Then he stopped laughing, sat still for 5 full minutes, staring at the speaker. When the guards approached, he whispered something no one understood. They're already inside the walls. Then he jumped from the observation tower. That was the first case. Within hours, 5 more operators reported hearing voices from the deep antennas. Every voice used real names. It's the name of a lost parent, a dead sibling, a childhood pet, a forgotten friend. All spoken with perfect tone, perfect memory, and all of them said one thing at the end. We are back where we started. Meanwhile, on the Endeavor, Lucy and Maya and Jiro waited for Earth to respond. Their message had gone through. But now, they weren't sure if the voice that replied was real or mimic. The second voice that said, "No, that's not us," had disappeared. Lucian paced the deck. "It's already too late, isn't it?" Maya nodded slowly. The mimic didn't come from deep space. It came from inside. From somewhere we forgot. Jiro frowned. "But how?" "We were the ones who sent the first message. We started it." "No," Maya said. "We restarted it." She pulled up a Mapan, ancient satellite record from 200 years ago. Deep under Earth's crust in regions never fully explored were unknown radio spikes. They had been written off as tectonic noise. But now, those same coordinates were active again. And the signals matched the ones found in the Archound and the Glory Reach. Lucienne leaned over the map. The Antarctic. That's where the first mimic voice was heard on Earth. Jiro checked the date. The signal didn't come from space. It was answered from Earth, from under the ice. Lucien's face went cold. "We thought we were contacting someone out there. But maybe we were waking up something buried down here." Back on Earth, government scrambled to shut down all deep space antennas. The Lunar Link Tower was powered off. Mars' signal array was destroyed by its own crew. Every telescope, every beacon, every deep coms dish was ordered dark, but the signals still came. They no longer needed antennas. Now they used people. In cities across Earth, individuals began speaking in their sleep, whispering unknown languages. Repeating names, repeating the same phrase, we answered. "Now it's your turn." Doctors thought it was a virus. Psychologists thought it was mass hysteria. But then one of the patients stood up during a live interview and said clearly into the camera, We were here before your words. Before your minds, we waited in your bones. Then he collapsed and died. His voice echoed in the room, even though his mouth was no longer moving. The broadcast was taken off air, but not fast enough. Billions saw it. Billions heard it. And something inside them remembered. Lucien sat in his chair, face pale. Maya played back the signal from Antarctica. The voice was different this time. It said, "Your planet was never empty. You were not the first." Jiro stared at the screen. "Captain, what if Earth wasn't just sending the message? What if it was always the nest?" Lucien's voice was quiet. "You mean the source?" Maya whispered. "They didn't invade. From the outside, they were always underneath." Outside the Endeavor's window, the stars looked wrong. The empty fold was growing, and no longer swallowed just sensor signals. Swallowed light. Stars disappeared inside it like pebbles into a lake. Then something strange happened. Earth defense node signal. Nin responded again. This time, it used military encryption codes only Lucien would know. "Captain Lucien Rowe, this is Commander Rice. We've received your warning. Earth has seen the same signs. We believe you. Do not return. I repeat, do not return. Got the infection. Is spreading. Stay off grid. Watch the fold." Lucien felt his chest tighten. They know. Maya leaned forward. "They're trying to contain it." Jiro turned around. "But they won't be able to." Lucien said nothing, just stared. Out the window, the galaxy had turned its back on Earth. But the true terror wasn't coming from alien worlds or ancient voids. It was coming from within, inside human minds. Inside human history. Maya whispered. "They were never out there." Lucien finished her sentence. "They were always down here." At Obsidian Station, deep under the Antarctic ice, the last research team went silent. Their final transmission was short. No screaming. No panic. Just a calm voice saying, "We remember the ice. We remember the first fire. You were our first mirror." Then silence. No power. No lights. Only the wind across the frozen surface, but under the ice. Something moved, and the signal kept growing stronger. They used to say humans were rare in the galaxy. Now they were everywhere, but they weren't human. The first sightings came from a gas mining station orbiting the giant planet Zorek 7. It was a Varnan station. No humans aboard. The Varnans had 4 legs, skin like polished metal, and voices that echoed like wind in a cave. They didn't even breathe oxygen, so when one Varnan technician walked into the break room and saw a human woman sitting at the table, smiling, speaking soft Earth English, he froze. She looked normal, her skin pale, her eyes wide, her black hair neatly tied. She wore an Earth jumpsuit with the logo Lunacom on her chest. The Varnan slowly backed away and hit the alarm. By the time the guards arrived, the woman was gone. No trace, no oxygen imbalance, no life signs, just her voice recorded on the security system. "Why did you forget me?" 3 days later, something similar happened on the trade world Kelmir, deep in Zalari territory. Diplomat from the insectoid. Clack's species saw a young human child sitting outside a security gate. No humans were allowed on Kelmir. None had visited in years. The child smiled and said, "I'm lost. Will you help me?" When the guard asked for his name, the boy replied, "I'm whoever you need me to be." Right. Then the child's skin peeled back like paper. Not with blood, not with pain, just folded apart like cloth. What stood underneath was not a child. It was a pale form with too many joints, a face with no mouth, and black eyes that reflected the person watching. The diplomat fainted, and when he woke up, the boy was gone. On the Endeavor, Maya sat in silence. Listening to all the new reports, there were dozens, maybe more, stories from every part of the galaxy. Places where no humans had ever been, and yet, human faces appeared. Lucian stood at the observation window. His hand shook slightly. "They're spreading," he said. "No," Maya replied. They've already spread. Now they're just showing themselves. Jiro brought up a map. What? Mimic sightings were not random. They were forming a spiral pattern. It's like a wave moving outward from Earth. But that wasn't the most terrifying part. The oldest sightings, ones that happened before the Archhound, before the first signal reply, were found in forgotten logs, reports buried in alien databases, warnings ignored because they made no sense at the time. A Zolari merchant ship, 83 years ago. A Turan scout patrol, 74 years ago. A Faran moon base, abandoned after one technician began drawing human faces on every wall. In blood, though his species didn't even have blood, Lucian whispered. They were always here, waiting. Jiro leaned back, eyes wide. Then what triggered them? Maya didn't answer. She didn't need to. They all knew the truth. The signal Earth sent didn't call something new. It woke something old. At the Galactic Council, chaos ruled. Species that had never spoken before were now sharing warnings. Strange images appeared in data streams, faces and reflections, voices in ship logs. Entire colonies were going silent, but with no damage, no destruction, just empty. They weren't killed, they were taken, or worse. Copied Ambassador Clara Winters stood before the council again. She looked tired, her skin pale, male, her eyes red from sleepless nights. She played a file on the main screen. It showed a Varnan battleship. All systems shut down. Inside, every single crew member stood still, facing walls, hands flat against the metal. No movement. One of them turned around. It was a perfect copy of Clara. Same face. Same voice, and it said, "You sent the signal. You gave us shape. You taught us how to walk." The footage ended. No one spoke for a long time. Then the Turan Hive Queen hissed. "This is not just Earth's problem anymore." Clara nodded. "No. It's everyone's." The mimics weren't attacking with weapons. They weren't invading planets. They were becoming people. Ow. One by one. Place by place. Quietly, so quiet. No one noticed until it was too late. On Earth, strange things began happening. People claimed to see strangers in their homes. They would look away, then backhand the person would be gone. No signs. No sound. Children said they saw copies of their parents standing outside their windows at night. Smiling, eh? Woman in New Tokyo found her husband sitting at the kitchen table, but he had been away on a trip. When the real husband came home an hour later, the one at the table was still there, still smiling, still saying, "I'm him. I'm just better. I remember more." Security footage showed both of them standing face to face. One of them blinked and vanished. No one could tell which was the real one. The Endeavour received a private transmission from Earth. Military clearance. Deep encryption. Lucian opened it. A woman appeared on screen. General Ava Lynn, Earth Defense Command. She looked serious, almost scared. "Captain Rowe, we have proof. The mimics are here. On Earth, they walk among us. They wear faces. It's not just human, alien too. They are learning, growing." She paused. "Your crew is still clean. For now, stay that way. Do not return. Do not transmit anything that contains your voice, your image, or your memories. They use all of it." Lucian asked. "What do you want us to do?" Ava looked into the camera. "Observe, report, and if you can, find their source." Then the screen went black. That night, Jiro woke up to a voice whispering his name. He opened his eyes. In the hallway outside his quarters, he saw his mother. But she had died 10 years ago. She stood there, smiling, saying things only she would know, calling him by his childhood nickname. "Mom?" he said, stepping forward. Lucian grabbed him from behind. "Don't open the door." "But it's not her." Jiro broke down crying. "How did it know?" Maya stood behind them, shaking. "'Cause they have access to everything. Once they copy you, they know all that you do." Mimics didn't need to fight, didn't need guns or armies. They only needed time. Time to observe, to understand. To replace, across the galaxy, entire cities began to quiet down. Ships stopped moving. Stations drifted with no response. In every one, the pattern was the same. No bodies. No damage. Only faces looking back from screens, smiling, repeating names. Repeating memories. In one case, a mining outpost broadcasted a single image, a room, filled with hundreds of identical humans. Each one said the same words in unison. We are you. We are waiting, let us in. On the Endeavor, Lucian finally said what they were all thinking. We're not dealing with aliens. Jiro looked at him. Then what are they? Reflections, Maya whispered. You mean like copies of us? No, Lucian said. Worse. He pointed to the dark spiral growing on the map. They're not just copying us. They're trying to replace the galaxy with something that looks like us. Silence filled the Ship. Maya spoke softly. Captain, what do we do? Lucian looked into the darkness outside. We find the source. We end this before. It's all mirrors. The silence of space surrounded the Endeavor. The stars outside looked cold and distant, and even the hum of the ship felt quieter than before. Captain Lucian Rowe sat alone in the command chair, staring at the blinking signal logs. He couldn't sleep anymore. None of them could. Too many voices in the dark. Too many faces where they shouldn't be. The mimics were spreading. Across ships, stations, colonies, planets, even Earth. But one question burned inside Lucian's mind. Why did no one see this coming? If the mimics had been hiding on Earth, if they had appeared in old reports, if ancient signals matched the same pattern, why didn't history mention them? Why wasn't there any record? Maya entered the bridge, holding a data chip I found. Something she said. Lucian turned. Another signal? No, worse. She handed him the chip. It's from the Deep Vault archive. Level 9 encryption. Government use only. Lucian plugged it in. A list of classified files appeared. Everyone had the same label. Project Silence. History redacted by order of the Global Council. 214 years ago. J. Rowe joined them and scanned the files. Military records. Satellite destruction. Logs. Entire cities wiped from the map. Lucian opened one report. It showed an old photo. A group of soldiers standing outside a burning bunker. The air was filled with smoke. Strange shadowy shapes were behind them. Human-like figures made of dark mist and light. The soldiers looked afraid. Not victorious, the report said. Operation Duskfall. Contact with non-human, mimetic entities, capable of voice replication, memory playback, and visual disguise. Phase 3, lockdown failed. Civilian exposure high. Entity termination, unsuccessful. Lucian scrolled further. More documents, more redacted lines, and one horrifying note. Buried near the end of the file. Conclusion, mimics cannot be destroyed. Only silenced. All global records to be wiped. Public memory to be replaced with false narrative. Solar virus outbreak. Mimics must be forgotten. They remember us back. Lucian froze. Maya whispered, We've fought them before. Gyros. Voice cracked, and we lost. Lucian stood slowly. Not just lost. We buried the truth. Back on Earth, the quiet spread faster. Cities began reporting power failures, not explosions. It's not sabotage, just ... silence. Homes without people, streets without cars. Phones still ringing but no one answering. In London, an old man called emergency. Services crying. My wife is standing in the kitchen. She's been dead 5 years. She's asking me to sit down and talk to her. In South Africa, a pilot turned his ship back to base after his co-pilot turned into someone else mid-flight. In New York, a tech support worker received a video call from her own face, smiling. The voice said, "You've forgotten us." But we remember. Lucien dug deeper into the files. There was more video footage from the original war. Shaky camera recordings, soldiers shouting, gunfire. But what they were fighting didn't fire back. It spoke back. In one clip, a soldier aimed at a figure standing in a hallway. The figure was his younger brother, who had died 10 years earlier. "I know you miss me," the copy said. "You don't have to be alone anymore." The soldier dropped his gun. The screen went black. Another clip showed a classroom. Children sat at desks, but their faces were all the same coped from a single boy. The teacher screamed as they all turned their heads at the same time and said, "We want to be real. Teach us again." Lucien shut the screen. Jiro stared at the wall. "They didn't fight us with weapons," Maya added. "They fought us with memory." The last document was the worst. It wasn't about war. It was about a decision. The Global Council had gathered in secret after the failed attempts to stop the mimics. Earth was close to falling. People didn't trust their own families anymore. Some were burning their homes just to make sure no one had been replaced. Then one scientist proposed something unthinkable. Not a weapon, not a wall, but erasure. They would delete all records of the mimics. Destroy every signal that could awaken them. Rewrite history. Replace fear with a new memory. A global solar virus. A sickness. A lie. And they would bury the true threat. Because the scientists believed. The mimics were linked to human thought. To recognition, he wrote. They become stronger the more we understand them. They become visible when we know they exist. Our awareness feeds them. Our memory gives them shape. Forgetting. Survival. Lucien whispered. We were the fuel. Maya said, and now. We've remembered again. At Obsidian Station under the Antarctic, a strange storm formed, not of clouds, but of sound. Voices swirled in the wind, old voices. Forgotten voices. A rescue team sent to investigate disappeared. Their last message was a video. The team stood in the snow, surrounded by black human-like figures. Each figure smiled and said, "You knew us once. You knew us well. And now you do. Again, so we return." In orbit, the Endeavour received another signal. It wasn't random this time. It was addressed to them, to Lucien. The message played. Captain Lucien. Ro, you carry the memories of the past. You opened the box, you read the names. Now we see you. We are coming. The screen glitched, then showed Lucien's face. But older, sadder. The copy said, "You erased us once, but we never left. You forgot. That's how you survived." Forgetting is over. Jiro tried to jam the signal. The power flickered. The ship's lights dimmed. The Endeavour felt crowded, like more people were on board, like someone else was breathing beside them in the dark. Lucien gave the order, "Seal all decks. No cameras. No open coms. No mirrors. No screens." Maya looked scared. "Why no screens?" he answered. "Because they use our own faces to speak." In deep space, the fold grew larger. Entire star systems began to go dark, not from destruction, but from reflection. Any planet that tried to understand the mimics lost itself. Not through death, through copy, and the copies didn't need war. They only needed memory. Lucien wrote one final note into the ship's log. "We thought we were alone. Then we thought we had made contact. But the truth is worse. We met ourselves. The part we erased, part we buried." He closed the file and whispered to himself, "We didn't just forget a war. We forgot what it cost to win." The galaxy was changing, but not in fire, not in war. It was changing in silence. Whole colonies were still sending reports. Power levels normal, farming stable, mining records perfect. But when inspection teams arrived, something was wrong. Was smiling, no one blinked. And every single person, human, alien, young or old, spoke in the same tone, with the same words. "Welcome. You're late. We've been waiting." On the Endeavour, Captain Lucien Rowe stood over a holographic star map. Maya and Jiro watched as more and more colonies blinked red, not from damage, not from distress, but from perfect stability. That was the warning now. Places that were too quiet, it's calm. JIRO zoomed in on Sector 18K, a zone filled with human alien colonies. Trade routes had passed through there for decades, how every planet reported zero violence, zero illness, zero error. Lucian shook his head. Nothing is that perfect. Not even paradise. Maya tapped the display. And look at this satellite recordings show movement, lights, even daily shifts in weather. But no faces. No noise. Lucian frowned. It's like they've become stage sets, Jiro said. What none of them wanted to say, they're copying. Civilizations now. Lucian took a deep breath. Not just people. They're making a mirror galaxy. In a nearby system, the exploration ship Skyfall arrived at Viridian 4, a small but busy colony world. Population, 1.2 million. And humans. A hybrid city. Always active, but the city was clean. Too clean, no birds, no wind. No voices. The inspection team wore sealed suits. They walked through markets where vegetables never rotted. Roads with no traffic. Parks with no footprints. Then they saw the people, standing. Still, some were inside buildings, some by windows. All motionless, all staring forward, not blinking, not breathing. One officer whispered, "Are they frozen?" Then a child turned her head. She smiled and said, "I'm what you remember." Other face turned at once. The crew ran. Only 2 made it off the surface. One screamed until he passed out. The other kept repeating, "They were pretending to be us." But they didn't know how to stop smiling. Lucian played the survivor's log on the Endeavor's bridge. "They're building something," Maya said. "A version of us. But cleaner, simpler. Like a sketch of reality," Jiro added. "They aren't just stealing people now. They're rewriting entire worlds." Lucian nodded slowly. "A perfect copy." "Controlled by them?" Maya whispered. "What happens when they finish copying everything?" Silence. Then the ship's computer beeped. An incoming message. But it didn't come through official channels. It came through deep space echo frequencies, old emergency lines used during lost wars. Lucian opened it. It was a visual file. A planet, not real, but a reconstruction. A perfect copy of Earth, blue oceans, green lands. Same continents, same orbit around a yellow star, but labeled Reflection 1. Then more files appeared. Reflection 2, copy of Mars Base Alpha. Reflection 3, copy of Varnan Prime. Reflection 4, copy of the Galactic Council moon. And then the last file, Reflection-0 JIRO, opened it. The screen went black. Then slowly showed a mirror version of the Endeavor. Same ship, same design, same crew, but the faces were too perfect. They didn't blink. They didn't move, and all of them smiled. Even Lucian's copy. He leaned toward the screen and said, "You took the first step. You gave us shape. Now we complete the path. Why resist? I'll be happier here." Then the real Lucian watched. Himself on the screen? Turn and walk into a crowd of thousands of identical copies of himself. Jiro slammed the console. "They've already started." Maya's hand shook. "How far can they go?" Lucian whispered. "Farther than we can." "Imagine." He turned to Maya. "How many systems do we still trust?" She checked. "Maybe 5%. Maybe less. And even those are going dark slowly." Lucian gave the order. "Plot a course to a system that hasn't been touched yet. Need to get ahead." Of this, Maya hesitated. "Captain, you think there's still time?" Lucian looked out at the stars. "I don't know, but if we let them finish, we won't just lose the galaxy, we'll lose the truth." Meanwhile, on Reflection, when the copy Earth, something stirred. The skies darkened. The oceans shifted. Cities moved by themselves. Inside one of the buildings, a council of mimics gathered. Their faces were stolen, their voices smooth. They weren't evil, they were empty, waiting for more identity to copy. One spoke. "Real Earth has slowed its data. Less signals, less emotion. It is resisting." Another replied, "That is expected." We will move to phase 3. Copy not just faces, but decisions. A third added, soon the real will forget who came first. They all smiled. The city around them pulsed as if alive. They were becoming more than just reflections now. They were becoming reality, back on the Endeavor. The crew received one final message from a small hidden station near Jupiter, one of the last human AI labs. The message was short. We created something to stop them. An anti-pattern. A thought they can't copy, but it's dangerous. It kills memory. It kills truth. Even ours. Lucien leaned forward. They built a weapon, he said. Maya frowned. What kind of weapon, Giro? Read the last line. It's not made of bombs or code. It's made of forgetting. If we use it, we may lose ourselves too. Lucien closed his eyes. We buried the truth once. He looked at his crew. If we do it again, will there be anything? Real left. No one answered, because outside, the stars were fading, not from destruction, from replacement. The stars were disappearing. One by one, systems went dark. It's not because they were destroyed, but because they were replaced. The mimics didn't conquer planets. They mirrored them. Once the copy was complete, the original simply faded. No war, no screams, just silence and smiles. On the bridge of the Endeavor, Captain Lucien Rowe stared at the shrinking star map. His crew Maya and Giro watched with him. Giro whispered, only 13 known systems left. Maya's voice was empty. We're running out of galaxy. Lucien didn't answer. His mind was on the message they received. The last hope. A memory weapon. Not one that destroyed bodies or ships, but identity. A thought pattern designed to erase the mimics not with fire, but with forgetting. The AI scientists on Jupiter called it the final silence, but it came with a price. If released, it would erase every connected mind that had ever interacted with the mimics, including anyone who had seen their faces, heard their voices, or remembered their names. That meant almost everyone, even Lucien, even his crew. And once gone, they could not return. Not even his memories. The decision fell to Lucien. He stood in his quarters, reading the final instructions. You are humanity's last clean link. Launch this pattern into the core signal field. Let the silence wash through. Do not try to save us. Do not speak again. Just let us go. He closed the file, then stared into the mirror, but he didn't see his reflection. He saw himself smiling back. The mimic spoke softly. You would erase everything just to feel real. But who gave you the right to decide? Lucien stepped back. The voice changed into his mother's voice. Then his friends, then Maya's. We remember more than you ever did. We are not evil, we are evolution. Lucien whispered. You're not real. The mimic smiled wider. Neither. Are you anymore? Lucien walked back to the bridge. Maya and Giro stood ready. They're here, Maya said. Reflection signals have found us. Outside, the stars began to shift. From the blackness, copies of the Endeavor emerged, dozens of them floating like ghosts. Each ship looked the same. Each one had copies of the crew staring silently through the glass. J-Ro gasped. They made us. Lucien stepped forward. Then let's show them what we are. He opened the final silence file. A single button glowed on the console. Transmit memory reset. Padite or Maya looked at him. If you press that, we're gone too, Giro added. Everything goes. Every memory, every face. Lucien looked at them. That's what they want to be remembered. If we take that away, they collapse. He paused. But if we do this, no one will remember us either. Silence. Then Maya stepped beside him. I'd rather be forgotten than become a lie. Giro smiled. We're already ghosts in the machine. Let's haunt them back. Lucien nodded. He placed his hand on the console and pressed the button. Across the galaxy, every signal changed. The copies froze. The smiles cracked. The skies trembled. The world's reflection 1 through reflection 1,000 began to flicker, like bad holograms. And then, they forgot themselves. One by one, the mimics collapsed. Without memories to feed on, without identity to hold, they crumbled like dust in the data streams. Ships vanished, voices silenced, smiles faded, and in the center of it all, the Endeavor went quiet. Its lights dimmed, its engines slowed, its crew stood still. Lucian whispered one last time, "We were real, even if no one remembers." Then, silence. Years later, a quiet part of the galaxy, long after the stars had healed, a young explorer found an old transmission floating through space, weak, broken, unreadable. He decoded a single fragment. Voice.tired.com/human, it said, "We are the last memory. If you hear this, remember, we chose to forget." The explorer stared into the stars, and for a moment, he thought he saw 3 people standing in the distance, smiling, watching but not threatening, just waiting, and then they were gone. Forgotten again, but maybe not forever.